panel. Now, as far as pasta is concerned, what sort of sauces fit what sort of pasta? Do you think there's a rule that you should apply?
The Italians have a kind of code that certain pastas hold more sauce, so if it's a very strong flavour, you want a pasta like that, like the little shell-shaped ones.
And anything hollow, they reckon should have a tomatoey one, because it's more liquid and it fills the inside of the tube as well.
And they also don't have parmesan on by any means, any of it.
No, they often regard that as extremely...
And bolognese is just for idiots.
Yeah, I'm afraid so, yeah. And the other major thing is that we use about 4 times more sauce on the pasta than the Italians do. They just basically coat the pasta with the sauce.
The point is, though, they just have pasta as one of many courses in an elegant meal, whereas we sort of say, oh, pasta is a great way of getting the whole chore of feeding ourselves over with in one great stodgy go. We'll have loads. I'll have a pile of it until I just can't face another mouth.
Exactly. Yeah. You're looking at the cooking instructions. Serves 4. Yeah, well, double that, I think.
I regard myself in some ways as a sophisticated being, and yet I'm not even ashamed of the fact that I love spaghetti hoops on toast. I just do.
See, that's what the Italians wouldn't understand.
No,
the thing to do with pasta is to put it on toast.
Is that what you do after a show? You go home and get some spaghetti hoops, heat them up, put the toast on, turn all the lights out, put the blindfold on.
My life. That's my life. Moving to another country now, but around the same time. Which international head of state snubbed Jesse Owens after his triumph at the 1936 Olympics?
Oh, go on.
Yes,
Hitler.
Oddly enough, it's not true. It's what the whole world thinks, but it isn't true. And we know this from no greater source than Jesse Owens himself. In fact, it's a really rather sad and a very typically, I'm afraid, unfortunate story. Jesse Owens, as you probably know, won 4 gold medals at the 1936 Berlin Olympics. The Olympics were stage-managed, of course, by Hitler. Now, on the first day, Hitler congratulated only German winners. And someone said to him that he should either congratulate all the winners or none of them. So he said, well, in that case, I won't congratulate any winners. So as it happens, he didn't personally congratulate... He didn't personally congratulate Jesse Owens. Were you looking at that?
The bloke on the far right is just going like that.
That bloke on the far right,
To be fair,
it's called Hermann Goering.
I think surely they're all on the far right.
What is this? They're taking bets on how high the high jumper's going to go. The one on Hitler's left thinking I didn't get the memo. I didn't. When did this start?
How to dress. Well, no, it is rather sort of, as I say, Hitler decided on the second day that he wouldn't congratulate anyone. So he didn't snub Jesse Owens at all. In fact, according to Jesse Owens, he said, when I passed the Chancellor, he arose, waved his hand at me, and I waved back at him. Hitler didn't snub me. It was... Who snubbed him?
So Hitler wasn't such a bad guy after all.
No, it's not that. It's not that.
The jury's still out.
Hitler is, we know, is bad. It just so happened he didn't snub Jesse Owens.
King of England.
No, FDR.
Oh, bastard.
The president of his own country. This is a terrible story here. It was FDR who snubbed me. The president didn't even send me a telegram. He won 4 gold medals. When I came back to my native country, after all the stories about Hitler, I couldn't ride in the front of the bus. I had to go to the back door. I wasn't invited to shake hands with Hitler, but I certainly wasn't invited to the White House to shake hands with the president either. He had to use the goods lift of the Waldorf Astoria to get into the reception for returning US athletes, as he wasn't allowed to use the front door.
So Sammy Davis Jr. couldn't go in the front door of the hotels in Vegas where he was performing.
I know. It is simply astonishing.
He had to go in through the kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that still happens to me, though, sometimes.
Now then, moving on elsewhere again. Where does the rainwater that falls into this creek go? It's in Wyoming, I should say. Yes, you're right! You're very good at this.
Bloody good.
You're as you probably know, round about the Rockies there is the Continental Divide, and rainwater that falls one side of the Continental Divide will drain into the Pacific, the other side will drain into the Atlantic or the Gulf of Mexico. But in this particular place...
Nobody knows.
It's called North Two Ocean Creek in Wyoming. It just... Nobody, as you rightly say, knows. And there it is. And now, fasten your seatbelts and assume the brace position as we head into a spot of unexpected general ignorance. Fingers on buzzers, please. Name the world's largest pyramid.
Don't know the name of any pyramids.
Is that one in the middle?
Oh, Jack, I'm so sorry.
Am I really that predictable?
I'm afraid you are. Terrible thoughts.
Well, I don't know. I'm going to say something that will be wrong, like Giza or something like that.
Yeah, well, that's where we're looking. We're looking at the three great pyramids of Giza there in northern Cairo.
It's not an Aztec one,
Yes, it is. It is. It is. I wouldn't expect you to know its name. If you did, I would give you 40 points.
I don't know its name, but I'll spit out some consonants.
It's called Cholula.
Oh, Cholula.
Cholula.
I was definitely going to go a lot more...
No, it's not Popocatépetl or one of those. It's the Cholula Pyramid. And although it's got a flat top and it's not as high, its cubic capacity is much bigger. It's 4.3 million cubic yards as opposed to Khufu or Cheops' 3.36.
Not actually a pyramid, though, is it?
No.
Well, actually, according to archaeologists and others, that qualifies as a pyramid. There is a word for a pyramid with a flat top. Might you know it?
Unfinished.
Due for completion, early BC 497.
It's called a frustum. Name the world's fattest country. Or the country with the fattest citizens, I suppose.
Oh, right, because otherwise I'd say it'd be Russia.
Yeah.
Tonga.
Not Tonga, no.
Fiji.
No, but you're absolutely in the right area. You've correctly...
Vanuatu.
No, you're absolutely... You're so... Oh.
The Cook Islands.
It's so close to around there.
Fiji.
It begins with N.
Not Tonga.
Nehru.
Near Tonga. North Tonga. Nether Tonga.
Is it Nehru?
Nauru, exactly,
Oh,
yes. Well done, Nauru, yeah. It only has a population of 10,000 people, but 97% of the men are obese or overweight, and 93% of the women are obese or overweight.
I remember they had a one-man Olympic team and he was in the weightlifting.
Yes, they get rather upset at being called obese, and they say they're a stocky people and that...
Big-boned.
And big-boned, exactly.
It's their metabolism.
Well, I'm afraid the fact is you can't really put on weight, as I know to my cost, unless you put things in your mouth. That's where it comes from. When was the First World War first named as such?
The outbreak, the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand.
You think they called it the First World War straight
Before
away?
it started.
It would be an act of a pessimist to call it the First World War that early, surely. It's going to be some point after 1939, isn't it?
A realist, surely.
So
There's got to be more of these.
Yeah.
At
what point? Excuse me. I think what I said, people in the box, is after 1939, which may contain 1939, but does not mean it.
No, well...
OK. No. After 1939 and after the Second World War are not synonymous. Now, this is just giving you time to type after 1939. Why don't you just type, Mitchell is a cop?
I wouldn't put it past them. No,
Okay.
the surprising news is that it was in 1918 that it was first called the First World War. And there's a British officer called Lieutenant Colonel Charles Court Repington, who recorded in his diary of the 10th of September that he met with a Major Johnson of Harvard University to discuss what historians should call the war. Repington said to call it the war was no good, because that wouldn't last, which was being called. To call it the German War was giving too much credit to the Bosch. I suggested the World War, Repington said. Finally, we mutually agreed to call it the First World War in order to prevent the Millennium folk from forgetting that the history of the world was the history of war. And in 1920, he published a book called The First World War, 1914 to 18.
But wasn't it called the Great War for a long time?
For a long time, it had been called the Great War, but there had been another Great War before that. Do you know what the Great War was before?
The Napoleonic
The Napoleonic War had been called the Great War, yes. So wars do change their names. There you are. A supplementary on this international question. Why did the colonels-in-chief of the Royal Dragoons and the First King's Dragoon Guards fail to turn up for duty at the start of the First World War?
They were entwined in an embrace. Only now can we reveal the truth.
It was one of those embarrassing things about...
Oh, I know.
Yes, go on.
Because it was Kaiser Bill.
Yes. Kaiser Bill was, in fact, the colonel-in-chief of the Royal Dragoons, and Franz Joseph the Habsburgs was the colonel-in-chief of the King's Dragoons. So
That's a security risk.
It was a bit, wasn't it? But we carried on doing
this. If it
this.
turned out that Osama bin Laden was actually, an admiral of the fleet, that would, that would have been a nightmare.
We appointed Emperor Hirohito a field marshal in 1930, so we carried on doing this. So obviously there was a bit of embarrassment to begin with when they had to go to war with their own colonel-in-chief. It was eventually sorted out, and we pretty much spanked their botties. We pretty much did.
After only 4 years of carnage.
Yes, that's right, absolutely. And lastly, on the international journey that we've been enjoying, who invented this salute?
The Scouts.
The Scouts? No, it wasn't the Scouts.
This is a kind of who were the first fascists question.
Not really, no.
A previous...
Who actually used this as a salute first, do we know?
Oh, was it a Roman?
Unfortunately, not. It was believed... It was basically the French classical artists, notably David, the leading French classical artist.
The artists had a salute?
They painted Romans, and they painted Romans doing this, but there is no evidence at all in Roman literature or murals or art that Romans ever did this as a salute.
They're bound to have done at some point.
Well, they might have put their arms out.
Yes, yeah,
but it wasn't
we don't
used
know
as
why,
a salute.
But,
It just became a common idea that they did this. And so it then became very much the symbol of the Olympic movement. It was the Olympic salute until 1936. And also it was American school children, when they took the oath of allegiance, they did that. And then again, once it became a fascist salute...
Now they do it.
They did the... It's a strange thought that the Nazi salute was, in fact, American schoolchildren and Olympic athletes who really first used it. There you are. It wasn't invented by the Nazis at all. And with that, we reach our final destination. But please remain seated for the scores. Oh, my goodness me. Well, I'm afraid very much in the... bucket class with minus 44 is David Mitchell. Standing room only at the back with minus 27 is Jack D. With a surprising amount of legroom at minus 10 is Alan Davis. Which means that tonight's first-class passenger with 4 points is Bill Bailey. So, thank you for flying with QI International. My cabin crew, David, Jack, Bill and Alan and I wish you a pleasant onward journey. And don't forget the wise words of Halvard Lange, Prime Minister of Norway and citizen of the world, who said, "We do not regard Englishmen as foreigners. We look on them only as rather mad Norwegians." Good night.